Show. I'm Kurt Schreiner, your host, and I'm here along with the head coach of Walton High School, the Walton Raiders, Rocky Hidalgo, as we prepare for this year's 2010 spring football game. And Coach Hidalgo, it must be nice to finally get back out on the field after the winter. The season ended a little bit tough last year. And how's the first couple of weeks of spring practice been as you get ready for the spring game?
The team's been great. We've got a lot of enthusiasm out there. There's a lot of athleticism. We've got a great attitude. Kids are working hard. I think if anybody's watched us, this has been some of the most physical practices we've had in years. We've got a lot of kids who can generate a lot of force when they hit each other. So it's been fun and spirited, and kids seem to be having a great time. I know as a coach, it's been a lot of fun working with them.
Rocky, what's your general philosophy around spring practice and spring games? Is it an open competition? Is it situations where you've got some of your starters and you're working them into the scheme? But when you look at the spring practice, how do you approach it as the head coach?
It's different every year. Some years you know you have some guys, for instance, Kyle Westman. Going into last season in the spring, we knew what Kyle could do. So Kyle was one of those guys. We didn't need a whole lot of snaps from Cobb because we knew what he was capable of. What we wanted to do is get some other guys there and see what we had in terms of depth. This year's team's a little different. We only have about 4 or 5 kids coming back who've played. We've got a lot of young kids with talent. So
right.
we've got to get kids out on the field and let them play and see what they can do. From a standpoint of what we're trying to do out there, philosophically, we believe that the spring is you kind of learn how you develop your attitude. You learn about how to go about your business. You learn to be physical out there. We want to knock each other around a little bit and learn how to go about our business when we hit the practice field. So that's what spring's all about. And, we want to get our spring with no injuries and learning who can help us, who can't, and hopefully find a few players here or there that we didn't think we had.
What kind of goals did you set for the team at the beginning of spring practice for the spring and then going into the summer?
It's kind of funny. I went into the spring thinking we're going to have to develop some leadership. We've got to really work on these kids. We had such strong leaders last year with guys like Kyle Westman and Brooks Tilley and Andrew Lipsey. That a lot of the kids this year don't have those personalities like that they stand out. So I was really concerned going into the spring about our senior leadership, and I'm going to tell you, I could not. It's the more you coach, the more you learn. Could not be further from reality. Our seniors are great. They're a close-knit group now that they're on the field. They communicate with each other. They talk to each other, encourage each other. They encourage the younger players. It's been really fun working with them. Their enthusiasm is contagious. It's contagious. Some of our coaches are like old dogs. They get some young puppies who get running around. They want to get out there and run around with them, and we've had some of that. Some guys who've kind of been energized just by working with the kids. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's good. I mean, it's interesting how each class takes on its own personality and young players emerge. But Rocky, as you looked at last season, it was your first season as a head coach, and you and I and Pete and Bob have talked about this a little bit in the past, but what were some of the things over the winter that you spent your time thinking about, okay, here's what I learned personally as the coach and the things that I want us to work on as a coaching staff and a team as we go into 2010?
The game's a very simple game. It always comes down to the few basics. Hold on to the football. You can't have turnovers. If you turn the ball over, you're not going to have a chance to win the game. You've got to play great defense. You've got to be good tacklers, and you've got to be good at something on offense. I mean, some teams want to throw the ball. We want to line up and run the football. We want to be physical. So we went back to that. We made a commitment defensively to get our best players on the field. That we said we're going to get our best athletes. We're putting them over there on defense, and we're going to be good on defense again here at Walton High School. And that's one of the things we made a commitment with. We went around and spent some time with other staffs learning some different defenses, different things on offenses. Our offense for the most part, 90% will be the same, but we're doing a couple of things differently in the passing game and in the running game. Defensively, we've kind of we're looking at a 3-4 defense this year. I think it fits our personnel a little better. Whether we'll stick with it or not, I don't know. It just kind of depends on how things pan out, but it's looked good in practice this far.
What positions right now, either on offense or defense, do you see the most competition? I know that you have to replace a lot of the offensive line, so you've probably got a pretty fierce competition there. But when you look at a group of guys during practices, you're walking around through the stations, where are the guys competing the most for positions?
Our competition across the board is a very competitive team. I think wide receivers, we've got a lot of guys competing for playing time. Sam Gottabush, Trip Roberts are 2 guys who've kind of been waiting their turn. We've got some young guys pushing them over there. Cody Richardson, Zach Sullivan and Stephen Wren are some young players who've come up and been really impressive. At the quarterback position, Bradley Kilburn has really improved over the offseason. He's throwing the ball well. He's really got some zip on the football. But Jacob Chesser, junior quarterback, and Parker McLeod's done a good job of coming in there and pushing him every day.
Good.
The offensive line, I think we have 7 or 8 guys there, maybe more than that can play.
Good.
And so we've got guys kind of rolling in and out there trying to find the right 5, and a lot of it's the mix. Defensive line, we probably have 7 or 8 suspects there for those 3 spots, so we have to continually rotate those guys in. So it's the competition across the board is really different than what we've had in the past. Last year, we kind of knew who those guys were in the spring. We had guys like Kyle Westman and Chris Mooney. We knew those guys were head and shoulders above everybody. But we've got a lot of really good football players running around out there right now. A lot of them don't know what to do, but they're trying, they're competing, they're giving us everything they can. So I think when you go out and watch practice, we got a lot of kids getting after each other.
Mm-hmm. When you're at a school like Walton, you get a lot of kids that really play their senior year. They get a little bit of playing time maybe their junior year, probably not too much your sophomore year. But because of the program and the way the program just reloads, you get a lot of kids that only get that 1 year as a senior to really show it. As a coach, what's the upside and some of the challenges that you also face when you get those 1 year starters and that have waited their turn, like Sam and other guys?
Yeah, you have to kind of it's good and it's bad. Usually we're an inexperienced team, but we're usually not a young team.
Right.
That's one thing. So our kids have played a bunch of football, but they haven't played on Friday nights. And I think you'll see a lot of that. We've got guys like Matt Rooks, Nick Redditch, who've been waiting their turn, Trip Roberts and Sam and Brad Kilburn, and there are tons of them out there who've been waiting to play. Brad Noble, who've been waiting their turn to play.
Right.
And we're always probably going to be like that because of our community, who we are. The downside of that is, it's if you can't have any breakdowns in the production line. We've got to stay on our kids in the weight room, and people don't understand this about we're downright crazy about the way we get on our kids about eating right, lifting weights, because we can't have a bad year with kids. We just don't have enough talent. We're not like some of these teams where they sign 8, 9 Division I players every year.
Right.
We don't have enough coming through. We've got good, solid football players. And sprinkled in with a couple of exceptional players year in and year out, and that's how we butter the bread around here. So we've got to make sure our kids stay in the weight room. They're at practice. They're working during the summers to make sure that production line keeps producing those guys. It's a huge effort by our coaching staff and our players and our families, because our families, not just our kids, our families, moms and dads, have to make a commitment that they want to be good. And it's we've been lucky here that they've bought in from the community standpoint.
Good. One of the things over the winter, Rocky, that changed quite a bit is that the region has changed. Pope and Kell have gone to 4A. We lose the Roswell Hornets, which has always been a terrific rivalry. But talk a little bit about what you see as some of the key changes within the region. Of course, we keep Lassiter as a big rival, and Wheeler will still be in the region. But you add a couple of folks, particularly from kind of the northwest Cobb or Cherokee area. As you look at the season, they're not new teams. We played them in the past, but different region in 2010.
It's going to be really fun, I think. I like when our regions switch up. Don't get me wrong. We still have Milton and Roswell on the schedule because those are great games, and we've fought some battles with them over the last few years. But it's neat when our kids are going to get a chance to go play in Northcutt Stadium. Northcutt in Marietta is one of the top venues, I think. It's a neat place to play. It's a bandbox. Everybody is right on top of you. So I've always enjoyed coaching there. I've enjoyed having our teams play there. Cherokee is a lot like that. I think when you look at Woodstock and Etowah, they're two of the best football programs in the metro area, and they're coming into the region. We're going to fight some battles with those guys over the next 2 years. I know their coaches very well. I know they're not real happy about us being on the schedule. We're not looking at them going, wow, those are easy wins, because we know that it's going to be tough, and we've got to prepare now. We've got to start preparing to beat those teams now. But I know Coach Stewart and Coach Buddy are going to have their teams ready to play. It's going to be a very, very physical region. I think if you look at the teams in the region, it's going to be a very physical region. Those teams up in Cherokee County, they do a good job. The strength programs are a lot like us in a lot of ways, where they're a senior-laden team almost every year. So it's going to be tough for us to get in there and compete for a region title. But I think our kids, if that's what they want to do, and I think their work ethic up until this point has shown that. And they talk about going out and competing against those teams. They're excited about playing against new football programs.
Right.
not going to the same ones, and going up to Cherokee, playing Woodstock, and doing this thing. So it'll be fun.
For the game on Friday night, Rocky, what's some of the format that the fans can expect to see for the spring game?
Well, some of our priorities were our special teams, developing a kicker, developing a punter. So you'll see us punt and kick on air. We don't want to get anybody hurt in special teams, but we've been working on our special teams this spring, especially our extra point field goal team, our kickoff team, and our punting team. So you'll see us run down on kickoff, and people probably watch that and go, "Why are they running against air?" We feel like it's important to go down there and work on the details, and you start working against air. I think we'll start out with we're going to do a blue light game, and we'll start out with the first offense versus basically the first defense. So the first 2 quarters, you'll get a lot of that, and on the white team may have the second offense versus the number 2 defense. So it's going to be a very competitive game. The third quarter will be young guys who haven't played a whole lot of football for us, a lot of juniors, and our sophomore class will compete against each other. And then depending on how night goes, we'll look at the fourth quarter and kind of script it out how we want. We might bring the ones and ones back on for a little bit. We may bring some guys who didn't get a lot of playing time earlier in the game, guys we want to look at, let them get in there and have a chance to play. It's just kind of, we feel the fourth quarter out as the night goes on.
In terms of special teams, Rocky, last year was a little rocky, and we made the field goal there at the end of the season. But what are you seeing this year? Who are some of the youngsters that are coming up that are going to be in the kicking and the punting program this year?
Kicking is a lot like hitting a golf ball. If one little thing gets off, it screws the whole thing up. Zach Miller is a very capable kicker for us. He's kicked the ball really, really well this spring. I mean, he looks like a top-notch kicker. He's a kid that going into last season, he was really kicking the ball well. He had a bad quadricep injury and really affected the way he was kicking the ball, and he never really recovered from that. Our young kickers, we've got some really young kickers who are going to be sophomores out there who can really kick the football if he's got a good leg. We have a new kicking coach he's working with him, who's done a great job. He kicked it in, and he's really, really defined. He's taught me a lot about kicking already, and just working with him. I was an offensive guard. I don't know anything other than kicking through the uprights. That's pretty the extent of my knowledge about kicking. But he's taught me a lot about coaching kickers and stuff in just the week and a half we've been out there. So I think you'll see our kicking game improve next year. We've got some guys. Sam Gottabush has been working some at punter. He said he could punt and goes over there, and, man, he's got a big-time leg.
Great.
He's really improved on some stuff. He's got a lot of technical and fundamental things he has to improve on before he can really go out and be a dominant punter in a game. But he's got a chance to really be a top-notch punter here at Walton next year.
Well, Raider fans, the blue-white game will be on Friday evening at 7 o'clock, and Coach Hidalgo will be leading the team out on the field. So if you get a chance, we'll look forward to seeing you next fall for the first edition of the Fall Rocky Hidalgo Show. But for now, I'm Kurt Schreiner along with head coach Rocky Hidalgo. Thank you, Raider fans, and we'll see you for the spring game.